The stars still shimmer above the horizon, their soft light clinging to the fading veil of night. In the quiet stillness of pre-dawn, the great city of Thebes lies in peaceful slumber. The Nile murmurs gently in the distance, its waters flowing with secrets older than memory. The sands are cool, and the air holds a hush, as though the world itself waits, just for a moment, before the rising of Ra. Inside the sacred enclosure of the temple, all is calm. Stone pillars tower like silent guardians, carved with stories of gods and kings. The scent of the previous day's incense still lingers faintly in the air, mixed with the crispness of early morning. Shadows stretch long and deep across the smooth flagstones. In the priest's modest chamber, bare yet dignified, carved into the temple's wall, the day begins not with sound, but with intention. His eyes open slowly. He does not speak. No words are offered to the waking world until the spirit is fully centered. A priest of the temple does not rise with haste, for every movement is part of something greater, each breath, each thought, a sacred act. He sits upright on his linen mat. The chamber is lit only by the early gray of morning. There is no clutter here. No distractions. A small alabaster bowl sits near the entrance, filled with cool, fresh water drawn from the sacred well. A simple clay oil lamp flickers, its flame low and steady. In the corner, his robes, folded with care the night before. The priest begins with silence. A silence that honors the world before words. He closes his eyes again, only for a breath or two. This moment is for grounding, placing himself back in alignment with Ma'at, the cosmic order, the balance of all things. Nothing else may begin until that harmony is remembered. With slow and deliberate movement, he stands. Bare feet press softly against the stone floor, cool and solid beneath him. He walks without sound toward the water basin. His fingers dip into the bowl. The water, though still, carries the blessing of the temple. He raises a handful and lets it fall gently over his face. The cleansing is not merely physical, it is spiritual. He washes away the remnants of sleep, the dreams of the night, the weight of yesterday. A priest must begin each day as if it were his first. His voice is finally heard, low, steady, and rhythmic, a whisper of a prayer to Thoth, the god of wisdom. It is not a plea, but a recognition. A thank you for waking. A promise to serve. The words are ancient, older than the walls themselves, passed from teacher to student, like a secret wind moving through time. He turns next to the small shelf cut into the stone wall, where a small statuette of Osiris rests. It is not large or ornate. Just enough to remind the priest of his duty, his path, his place between the divine and the earthly. He bows his head. The ritual is internal more than external. There are no loud proclamations. Just the steady heartbeat of a life lived in service. A faint sound stirs outside, a breeze brushing against the papyrus plants by the courtyard pool. Still, the city sleeps. But the priest's day has begun. He prepares himself not as a man preparing for work, but as a vessel preparing to carry divine will. His fingers brush the folds of his linen tunic, pure, white, untouched since its cleansing. It is the uniform of his calling. No jewelry, no color, no decoration. Only simplicity. Only humility. Before he dresses, he repeats the purification once more. This time, a full ablution. Using water stored in earthen jars sealed the day before, he pours slowly over his hands, his arms, his head. In the dim light, the water catches the first traces of golden dawn. His breath is measured, his mind still focused. He does not think of the tasks ahead. Only of the moment. Of the purity required before stepping into the temple's inner courts. Now fully bathed, he dons the tunic. The fabric is light and slightly rough, reminding him of the body's place in this life. Earthly. Temporary. He ties the sash around his waist, securing the folds, making sure it sits just so. A mirror, polished from copper, reflects a calm face. Not prideful, not austere, just calm. Ready. Outside, the sun is not yet risen, but the darkness has softened. The first ibis birds stir in the trees. Somewhere, a distant temple gong sounds, a low, resonant tone carried on the wind. It is the signal. The priests must begin the rites of opening. He steps out into the hallway, where other priests begin to emerge from their own quiet chambers. None speak. They nod to one another, acknowledging the sacredness of the hour. Each is barefoot, robed in white, eyes lowered in reverence. Together, they walk toward the purification court, where the great basin lies. The pool reflects the changing sky, still streaked with stars, but growing lighter. Here, the priests will cleanse again, in the waters dedicated to Nun, the primordial flood. The symbolism is clear: from chaos comes order, from the waters of eternity comes each new day. He steps into the pool last, lowering himself until the water laps at his chest. It is cold, but not unpleasant. The silence here is deeper than the temple walls. It is the silence of intention, of presence. He submerges fully, a baptism not into a faith, but into a purpose. When he emerges, he feels not just awake, but reborn. He climbs from the pool, dripping, and the linen cloth offered to him by a younger acolyte is warm from the stone it rested on. He dries slowly, again with care, again with reverence. Soon, the gates of the inner sanctum will be opened, and the daily journey through sacred time will begin. But for now, in this first chapter of light, there is only preparation. Only purification. Only the quiet steps before the divine enters the world once more. And above the city, the sky begins to bloom in gold. The golden edge of the sun has yet to breach the horizon, but the eastern sky glows with anticipation. A pale, sacred light begins to kiss the upper stones of the temple walls, ancient and unyielding. The air carries the scent of Nile reeds and distant lotus blooms. This is the hour between darkness and radiance, a liminal space where time stretches and the sacred world begins to stir. The priest stands in silence, wrapped now in a fresh linen robe, still damp from the waters of purification. Around him, the inner courtyard of the temple is quiet but not still. Columns rise like trees of stone, their surfaces carved with prayers, spells, and stories from 1,000 years past. The gods are everywhere, in every chisel mark, every shadow, every breeze. But they speak only to those who have learned how to listen. He walks slowly, his feet making the faintest sounds on the polished flagstones. Each step is deliberate, a continuation of the cleansing that began within. He is no longer simply a man who rose from sleep, he is now a vessel. Clean in body. Empty of ego. Aligned in heart. Ready to approach the most sacred rituals of the day. The inner temple awaits, but before crossing its threshold, a final rite must be observed. In a side chamber open to the morning air, sits a small bronze brazier. The priest approaches, and from a linen pouch tied at his waist, he takes a pinch of sacred resin. Frankincense, storax, and kifi, an offering of fragrance for the divine. He places the resin on the hot coals, and immediately the smoke rises, curling like a whisper into the air. He closes his eyes and breathes it in, not deeply, but reverently. The incense purifies not just the space, but the senses. It awakens memory, calls to the unseen, connects him to the long line of priests who have stood here before him. This scent is as ancient as the temple itself. With every breath, he feels the ritual deepen. The smoke wraps around him like silk, entering his robes, brushing against his skin. There is no separation between body and spirit now. All is one rhythm, one intention. He turns toward the sacred pool once more, this time not to bathe, but to watch. The surface has calmed from the earlier rites, now a mirror to the waking sky. The water is the lifeblood of the land, just as purity is the lifeblood of the priest's purpose. Without cleanliness, inner and outer, he cannot approach the gods. No priest would dare defile the temple with thoughts of unrest, or a heart heavy with the world. In this moment, nothing else exists. Not the noise of the marketplace, not the voices of the city, not even the passage of time. There is only stillness. A sacred silence. And in that silence, the world becomes clear. From a distant chamber, a soft bell chimes, 3 times. It is the call for final inspection. The high priest will soon open the sanctuary doors. Before that moment, every man of the cloth must complete his final ablutions. The priest returns to his chamber briefly, where a small copper basin awaits. Here, he washes his hands and feet again, pouring water from a carved jug, whispering a low invocation to Ma'at with each motion. Let my hands be clean as the morning light. Let my feet tread only paths of order. Let my heart be free of weight. And my voice carry truth. He repeats the words slowly. Not as a formality, but as truth. The weight of the day cannot rest on shoulders burdened by self. The gods require lightness, a heart balanced on the scale beside a feather. He dries once more with linen cloth, then anoints his neck and wrists with oil scented faintly with blue lotus and cedar. Not for pleasure, but for sanctity. The fragrance marks him as one set apart. Not better than others, but tasked with a sacred duty. The oil seals his cleanliness, like a final blessing before entering the realm of the divine. Outside his door, the other priests begin to gather, quiet, composed, robed in white. No one speaks. Their silence is not empty, it is full. Full of memory, purpose, and centuries of shared devotion. Each face reflects calm discipline, as if time itself has been slowed by their presence. Together, they move toward the entrance of the inner temple. The great pylon towers above them, carved with scenes of Horus triumphant and Ra in his solar bark. The gate is still closed, its golden handle cool to the touch. Soon, it will be open to the first rays of the sun. But first, the circle of breath. The priests form a ring in the courtyard, 12 men in total. They stand barefoot upon the stone, facing inward. Eyes closed. Hands at their sides. The circle is not a rite listed on scrolls, it is older than parchment. Passed through spoken tradition, it is a moment of unity before divine service. They breathe as one. Inhale, hold, exhale. Slowly. Silently. With each breath, they release the remnants of sleep, of thought, of the self. They become instruments. Hollowed out of ego. Ready to serve. With the final breath, the high priest steps forward. His robe is the same as theirs, though his voice carries the weight of authority and reverence. Let us now approach the house of the gods with hearts purified by silence, and hands made clean by the waters of none. Let the words we speak be true, the steps we take be sacred, and the offerings we bring be without blemish. He bows his head, and so do they all. Then the high priest lifts the sacred key, a long bronze object shaped like an ankh, symbol of life itself. He places it into the lock of the great temple door. There is a pause, just before it turns. The priest listens. To the silence, to the air, to the faint rustle of birds in the papyrus grove beyond the wall. From a distant chamber, a soft bell chimes, 3 times. It is the call for final inspection. The high priest will soon open the sanctuary doors. Before that moment, every man of the cloth must complete his final ablutions. The priest returns to his chamber briefly, where a small copper basin awaits. Here, he washes his hands and feet again, pouring water from a carved jug, whispering a low invocation to Ma'at with each motion. Let my hands be clean as the morning light. Let my feet tread only paths of order. Let my heart be free of weight. And my voice carry truth. He repeats the words slowly. Not as a formality, but as truth. The weight of the day cannot rest on shoulders burdened by self. The gods require lightness, a heart balanced on the scale beside a feather. He dries once more with linen cloth, then anoints his neck and wrists with oil scented faintly with blue lotus and cedar. Not for pleasure, but for sanctity. The fragrance marks him as one set apart. Not better than others, but tasked with a sacred duty. The oil seals his cleanliness, like a final blessing before entering the realm of the divine. Outside his door, the other priests begin to gather, quiet, composed, robed in white. No one speaks. Their silence is not empty, it is full. Full of memory, purpose, and centuries of shared devotion. Each face reflects calm discipline, as if time itself has been slowed by their presence. Together, they move toward the entrance of the inner temple. The great pylon towers above them, carved with scenes of Horus triumphant and Ra in his solar bark. The gate is still closed, its golden handle cool to the touch. Soon, it will be open to the first rays of the sun. But first, the circle of breath. The priests form a ring in the courtyard, 12 men in total. They stand barefoot upon the stone, facing inward. Eyes closed. Hands at their sides. The circle is not a rite listed on scrolls, it is older than parchment. Passed through spoken tradition, it is a moment of unity before divine service. They breathe as one. Inhale, hold, exhale. Slowly. Silently. With each breath, they release the remnants of sleep, of thought, of the self. They become instruments. Hollowed out of ego. Ready to serve. With the final breath, the high priest steps forward. His robe is the same as theirs, though his voice carries the weight of authority and reverence. Let us now approach the house of the gods with hearts purified by silence, and hands made clean by the waters of none. Let the words we speak be true, the steps we take be sacred, and the offerings we bring be without blemish. He bows his head, and so do they all. Then the high priest lifts the sacred key, a long bronze object shaped like an ankh, symbol of life itself. He places it into the lock of the great temple door. There is a pause, just before it turns. The priest listens. To the silence, to the air, to the faint rustle of birds in the papyrus grove beyond the wall. No barrier should separate flesh from the temple floor. In feeling the stone beneath his feet, he remembers that even the ground is sacred. Now fully dressed, he stands before a small bronze mirror, polished bright as the morning sun. He looks, not to admire, but to check. Every fold in place. Every thread clean. Every symbol honored. Behind him, other priests prepare in their own way. Each follows the same ritual, though none interrupt the other's space. There are no idle conversations. Only the rustling of linen, the soft splash of water, the sound of prayer murmured just above the breath. The high priest, already robed, moves quietly between them. He carries a reed staff, not for power, but for presence. His robes bear a narrow strip of gold thread, just above the hem, marking his role. But even he bows slightly when passing the shrine of Osiris carved into the wall. At last, the hour has come. The sacred garments are in place. The body is washed. The mind, still. The spirit, open. The priest moves toward the threshold of the inner temple. Before crossing, he pauses. On the lintel above the door, carved deep into stone, are the words. Enter pure of heart. Speak pure of tongue. Offer pure of hand. He places his palm lightly against the stone. It is warm now from the morning sun. He closes his eyes and whispers a final vow, not loud, not for anyone else to hear. Let me carry no weight but devotion. Let me leave behind the world. Let me walk with the gods in silence and service. Then, he steps forward. Inside the sanctuary, the air changes. Cooler. Dimmer. Thicker. As if even the breath must tread lightly here. The scent of old incense still lingers, soaked into the very walls. Statues of falcons, lions, and serpents flank the hallway, each one representing a guardian, a force, a memory of myth. No direct sunlight enters here. only what filters through slatted windows high above. The path ahead is lit by oil lamps. Small bowls of flame that cast slow-moving shadows on the stone. The priest walks with care. The linen robe brushes softly against his legs. Each footfall is a step through sacred history. The walls on either side are carved with images of the gods, Isis nursing Horus, Thoth writing the names of the faithful, Ra crowned in flame. And there, at the end of the hall, the Holy of Holies. A great cedar door, banded with bronze, stands closed. Only the high priest may open it. And only after the proper offerings have been made. But the priest has done what is needed. He is now dressed in purity. His body cleansed. His heart stilled. His soul aligned. He is ready. The robes do not make him more than he was. They make him less. Less self. Less noise. Less earthbound. Clothed in simplicity, he is closer to the divine. And beyond the heavy door, the God waits to be awakened. The corridor is dim and still, holding its breath. At its end, the cedar doors wait, tall, ancient, sealed since the sun last fell below the western dunes. They are not just doors. They are a veil between realms, a threshold between the world of man and the presence of the divine. The high priest approaches first. His reed staff taps softly against the polished floor. Behind him, in solemn procession, the other priests follow, each carrying something essential. One holds a bronze censer, another a basin of sacred water. The third carries the offerings, figs, bread, a vessel of cool milk. Simple things, yet ritually perfect. Unblemished. Chosen the day before with prayers and care. The priest feels his breath slow as they approach. Though he has stood here many times, the moment never loses its weight. Each day, it is as if the God is being greeted for the first time. At the base of the cedar doors, incense is lit. The sweet, musky smoke begins to curl upward, weaving around the priest's ankles, rising toward the engraved symbols, ankhs, lotuses, and suns carved in repeating rhythm. The fragrance announces their arrival to the unseen. It says, "We come not as men, but as servants." The high priest speaks, not loudly, but with authority. His voice echoes slightly in the stone chamber. "O great one, hidden behind the veil of night. We come to awaken your name with light. We are clean. We are humble. We are prepared." Then silence again. The key is brought forward. It is not small. It is long and weighty, shaped like an ankh, the symbol of life itself. Forged of bronze, polished to a dull gleam by many years of use. Only the high priest may hold it. Only he may turn it. The priest watches as the key slides into the bronze fitting at the center of the doors. It clicks once, sharp and final. A sound like thunder, though it is barely louder than a whisper. Slowly, the high priest turns the key, and the ancient mechanism stirs. Wooden beams shift. Bronze groans against bronze. And then, the doors open. The light is faint, for the room within has no windows. Only oil lamps lit days before flicker gently inside, their flames protected by glass domes. The inner sanctum reveals itself slowly, like a dream surfacing from sleep. At the center of the chamber stands the shrine. It is small, compared to the grandeur of the temple around it. But its simplicity makes it even more powerful. A wooden chest, gilded in gold leaf, sits atop a stone pedestal. Papyrus reeds and lotus flowers are carved into its edges. Draped around it is a veil of linen, soft and pale, covering the figure within. The God is still hidden. The shrine is the dwelling place of the deity's Ba, his presence, his soul force. Not just a statue. Not just a symbol. To the priests, it is a living being who dreams in silence when the temple sleeps, and awakens with ritual to accept the world once more. No one speaks. They do not rush forward. First, they bow, slowly, deeply, hands crossed over their chests. Then, the high priest steps in alone. The others remain at the doorway, heads bowed, eyes lowered. He circles the shrine clockwise, 3 times, murmuring prayers of awakening. The smell of the incense deepens. The air grows heavier, but not unpleasant, like standing in the center of something alive and eternal. Even the shadows seem to pause. Now, he removes the linen veil from the shrine, folding it gently, placing it aside. Beneath, the figure of the god is revealed, golden, serene, eyes half closed in perfect stillness. Perhaps it is Ammonius. Or Ra. Or Osiris. Each temple houses its own patron, but each one is part of the one, the divine order, beyond names. The priest enters now. Slowly. No sudden motion. No hurried breath. He approaches with the offerings. First, a gentle cleansing. He dips a palm into the basin of sacred water and wipes the statue's feet and hands. A symbol of awakening. A sign of care. A whisper of love. Then, he offers the food, placing the figs and bread upon a small alabaster tray before the shrine. The milk is poured into a tiny silver cup, nestled near the figure's base. He lights a new stick of kifi, it sent a dreamy blend of honey, wine, and herbs. The smoke drifts upward and wraps around the statue, like a morning embrace. Now, he speaks again, low and rhythmic. Great One, your temple is open. Your priests are gathered. Your name shall be spoken. Your breath shall rise with the sun. Outside, the first ray of sunlight pierces the temple's eastern corridor. It falls not on the shrine, but upon the high priest's robe, casting a golden thread across his shoulders. The timing is perfect. It always is. The architecture is designed to honor the sun, the sky, the divine calendar. The temple is not a building. It is a living clock, a song in stone. With the offering made, and the god unveiled, the other priests now enter. They move in pairs, silent, their linen robes whispering against each other. They form a semicircle around the shrine. No one moves ahead. The god is always the center. Together, they begin to chant. It is not a loud chant. It is low, steady, ancient. The words are old, carved in the temple's walls, remembered in the heart. The chant does not ask for blessings. It gives them. It does not beg. It affirms. As the sun rises, so does life. As the light returns, so does balance. As the god awakens, so do we all. The voices blend. The sound is hypnotic, a lullaby to the spirit. Time seems to dissolve. The room becomes vast, though it remains small. The light grows slowly, flickering off gold and shadow. Eventually, the chant softens. The incense burns lower. The high priest steps forward once more and bows deeply to the god. He replaces the linen veil, not as a covering, but as a sign of peace. The god is now awake. The world is now in rhythm. The order of Ma'at is upheld, for one more day. The veil has returned over the golden statue, not as concealment but as a gentle closure. The god is awake now, present in the sacred space, watching without eyes, listening without ears. The air is thick with devotion and the scent of incense, sweet, earthy, rich with kifi and frankincense. Smoke curls upward in twisting threads, as though lifting prayers into the invisible sky. The priests remain standing in a half-circle around the shrine, robes white as river foam, voices quieted to a reverent hush. Time inside the sanctuary no longer moves as it does outside the temple walls. Here, it flows slowly, like honey in the sun, each second steeped in ritual, each breath a form of worship. The offerings now take center place. Laid before the shrine are bowls of figs, carefully dried and softened in warm water, their sweetness considered worthy for divine taste. There are slices of barley bread, made by temple women before dawn, in silence, using flour ground with prayers. There is honey, thick and amber-colored, gathered from the sacred beehives tended near the gardens. There is milk, cool and white, freshly poured into alabaster cups shaped like lotus buds. But before anything may be presented directly to the deity, the offerings must be purified. The priest steps forward, carrying a small bundle of fresh green herbs, hetep, sacred plants grown in the temple's enclosed garden. He dips the bundle in a basin of Nile water, murmuring a blessing under his breath, and sprinkles it lightly over the food. Each droplet carries the spirit of renewal, of the sacred river, of the eternal flow of life through Egypt. As the Nile nourishes the land, he whispers, so may this offering nourish the soul of the divine. He moves with care, every motion a continuation of his earlier prayers. There is no room for distraction here. Even the placement of a fig, the tilt of a bowl, the way the honey drips, each is an extension of his devotion. Once the food has been sprinkled, the censer is brought forth again. The priest swings it gently in a circular pattern around the offerings. Thin trails of smoke drift across the altar, sanctifying the meal, making it not for human consumption, but for divine presence. The air grows heavier again. Not burdensome, just full. As if something unseen has stepped closer. The priest begins the invocation. O you who rise in the eastern sky. O light of Ra, O breath of life. Accept these gifts, prepared with honor. Given in purity, offered in peace. He bows low, as do the others. Then the chants begin again, this time softer, melodic. A song to accompany the meal. These chants are not meant to entertain or request. They are meant to honor. The words are old, but the meaning feels immediate. In them are the names of gods, the praise of life, the assurance that Ma'at, the sacred order, is alive in every act. The priest feels the rhythm in his body. The rise and fall of the chant matches his breath. The sound wraps around him like a warm cloak. Though the stone walls remain cold, he feels no chill. The god, though silent, is present. In the corner of the sanctuary, a younger priest approaches carrying a second tray. This one contains symbolic offerings, a fan of palm leaves, a feather of Ma'at, a small carved scarab, and a looped strip of gold to represent eternity. These are not to be consumed but to remind. To represent the aspects of creation, of truth, of the cycle that never breaks. Each item is placed slowly near the base of the shrine, in perfect alignment. Nothing is hurried. The placement is not about decoration, it is about resonance, about aligning the visible with the invisible. When the placement is complete, the high priest steps forward once again. In his hands is a small gold cup, filled with wine made from temple-grown grapes, deep red and dark as pomegranate seeds. He lifts the cup to the air, his voice strong but calm. To you, Great One, who dwells in silence and light. Receive this wine, symbol of blood, of life, of the earth's joy. He tips the cup gently, letting a small stream pour onto the stone base of the shrine. The liquid pools in a carved indentation shaped like the sun. It glistens there, unmoving, glowing in the firelight. Now, the most intimate offering. The priest removes a single lotus flower from a linen pouch. It is pale blue, picked at dawn from the temple pond, its petals still holding the chill of night. The lotus is sacred. It blooms from the mud, rises from water, and opens to the sun, just as creation rose from chaos, just as the soul rises from the body in sleep and death. The flower is placed directly before the god's veil. No words are spoken. This gesture says more than language can carry. The priest lowers his head. Around him, the others remain still. There is no hurry now. The moment stretches. The offerings have been given. The god has been fed. The breath of incense drifts slowly, like the sails of a boat across the horizon. The chant fades into silence once more. The priests do not expect a response. They do not wait for signs or visions. They do not ask. They simply give. Fully. quietly, without condition. And in doing so, they are filled. The god is not hungry. Yet still, he is fed. The god does not need figs, or wine, or milk. But still, they are brought. Because giving is the ritual. And the ritual is the thread that binds heaven and earth. Eventually, the high priest steps back. He lifts his hands and offers a closing blessing. May the heart of the god be glad. May his breath flow through the land. May the balance be restored. May this day be full. And with that, the offerings are complete. The shrine remains open. The air remains fragrant. But now, the focus will shift. There are duties beyond the sanctuary. There are fires to tend, scrolls to read, and hours of the day to honor. But the first act, the act of feeding the divine, has been done with care. Outside the temple, the light has fully arrived. The golden sun, Ra himself, rises above the low hills and palm fronds, casting his warm blessing over the river, the gardens, the rooftops of Thebes. Birds sing in quiet bursts from the papyrus reeds, their calls soft and rhythmic, like nature's own hymn to the day. Within the temple, the sanctuary has grown brighter. Narrow beams of sunlight slip through high stone slits, falling onto the stone floor like silent invitations. The scent of morning incense still lingers, caught in the carved grooves of the walls, mingling with the fresh warmth that creeps into the sacred space. The priests have begun to gather in the solar court, an open-air section of the temple designed to greet the sun directly. Its columns are tall, but do not close off the sky. This is where the morning hymns to Ra will be offered. Not behind walls, but beneath the open heavens. The priest steps barefoot onto the warm stone, the coolness of earlier hours now fading under the rising sun. The brightness feels soft, not yet harsh. Golden, gentle. The sky overhead is pale blue, without cloud, like a canvas stretched taut over the world. He stands in silence at the center of the solar court, the others forming a circle behind him. In his hands, he holds a small, carved sun disk, flat, golden, a symbol of Ra's eternal passage across the sky. It is not worshipped for its material, but for what it represents: light, truth, life, and movement. All that rises with the sun, and all that fades with it, day after day. Now, the chant begins. Slow at first. One voice. The high priest intones the first line, drawing the syllables out long and steady. His voice echoes gently against the stone. Ra, who sails the golden bark. Who opens the gates of day. Shine upon us, O radiant one. Then a second voice joins. Then a third. Then all of them. It becomes a weaving of sound, a tapestry of breath and word, rising like mist into the open sky. The rhythm is not hurried. It flows like the Nile. Repetitive, meditative. The words loop and return, always circling back to the name of the sun god. Ra. 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 Each name is an offering. Each breath is a torch relit. The priest feels the vibration in his chest as he sings. It is not a performance. It is not meant to impress. It is a remembering. A returning. He closes his eyes and lifts his face to the sun. He feels the warmth on his eyelids, on his cheeks. He imagines the solar bark, sailing above, carrying Ra through the sky, guarded by gods and spirits, fending off the great serpent of darkness. In this moment, the ancient myth is not just a story, it is a living presence. Ra truly sails above. The chant is not metaphor. It is participation. You rise from the eastern waters, wearing the crown of flame. You awaken the world with your breath, and the hearts of men with your light. The high priest raises the sun disk to the sky, holding it with both hands. The light glints off the polished gold surface, sending a brief flare of brightness across the courtyard. All the priests bow. The chant continues. Their voices weave between the stone columns and drift beyond the temple walls. Somewhere beyond, the city listens without knowing. Children wake. Farmers begin their work. Fishermen cast their nets into the Nile. All of it, every act, happens under Ra's gaze. And here, in the solar court, the divine is named. The priest focuses his heart on a single idea: illumination. Not just physical light, but spiritual clarity. The banishment of confusion. The warmth of truth. The beauty of knowing your place in the great order of things. For this, Ra is not feared, he is loved. And so the chant goes on. O Ra, eye of the sky. Flame in the east. Guide of the morning. Keeper of Ma'at. Receive our voices. At a signal from the high priest, a junior acolyte steps forward with a shallow dish. It holds a single flame, taken from the eternal fire kept burning in the sanctuary. This flame is brought into the sunlight and placed on a pedestal in the center of the courtyard. Fire meeting fire. The sun above, the lamp below. A reflection of each other. The priest breathes deeply. The incense has faded now, replaced by the scent of warm air, of baked stone, and distant flowers. He begins a softer verse, barely above a whisper. Ra of the noonday heat. Ra of the hidden hour. Ra of the lotus dawn. Dwell within us. The other priests join him in the whisper, the chant now transformed into a lullaby for the soul. The repetition becomes a rhythm of breath. A heartbeat. A lull, steady and calming. Birds flutter briefly across the edge of the courtyard, their wings casting soft shadows. The chant begins to fade, line by line, like the tide retreating from the shore. The final verse is spoken by the high priest alone. As you rise, we rise. As you shine, we serve. As you live, so lives the world. The solar court returns to silence. But it is not empty. It feels full. Full of warmth, of peace, of something beyond words. The priest opens his eyes. The sunlight is stronger now. It gleams off his linen robes. It kisses the tips of the columns. The shadow of the temple grows shorter. He bows deeply to the east, then turns, and the other priests follow him back into the temple's cooler corridors. Their steps are slow, deliberate. The chant to Ra is complete. But its echo will follow them throughout the day. In their duties. In their voices. In the way they walk through the temple halls. For Ra does not end at the solar court. He moves with them. In every light that touches stone, in every shadow it leaves behind. The chants to Ra have faded into the soft hum of morning. The sun now stands higher, its light falling directly into the temple's main courtyard. Shadows no longer stretch long across the flagstones, they tuck themselves neatly behind columns, pillars, and walls. Light and dark now balance, just as Ma'at, the eternal harmony, commands. The priest walks slowly beneath the towering columns of the temple's outer halls. These are the hypostyle corridors, vast, stone forests where pillars bloom like papyrus stalks. Their tops are carved into open flowers, symbolic of creation, reaching upward toward the sky. The air here is cooler, the light diffused, as if one is walking through the heart of time itself. Each step is careful. Not because the ground is uneven, it is smooth, worn soft by centuries of footsteps, but because the temple is alive. Every surface, every carving, every stone holds memory. To walk through these halls is not a stroll. It is a continuation of ritual. The priest's duties now shift from the sacred center to the outer rings of the temple. This space is not less holy, only more visible. While the sanctuary is hidden, this outer temple is where offerings are brought, where records are kept, where those not initiated may glimpse the work of the divine. As he walks, he passes murals stretching higher than a man can reach, scenes painted in faded but vibrant color. They show gods with animal heads, kings offering gifts, stars drifting in eternal procession. Some of the stories are as old as the first dynasty. Others were added in his father's time. But all point to the same truth: life is sacred. Every act, every moment, belongs to the gods. He pauses at a wall of names, each etched into the stone with a small offering painted beneath. These are not names of kings or generals. They are names of donors, villagers, merchants, and families who brought bread or linen or oil to the temple. A small basket of dried dates sits beneath one name, placed there just after dawn. The priest lifts it gently, inspects it, and places it on a low altar near the side. A quiet nod of gratitude escapes him. Each gift, no matter how small, carries the weight of devotion. He whispers this to himself, repeating a lesson he learned as a novice. Further along the corridor, two young acolytes sweep the floors with bundled palm fronds. Their motions are rhythmic, focused. They do not speak. They were trained not to. Silence is part of the offering. Even cleaning is a sacred act when done in the temple. The priest acknowledges them with a soft nod as he passes. Now he approaches the library of tablets, a side chamber within the outer court, shaded and lined with shelves of stone. Here, temple scribes preserve the daily records, dream interpretations, agricultural calendars, receipts for offerings, and copies of hymns written centuries ago. The walls are quiet, the air still. He steps inside and carefully removes a scroll from its linen wrap. It's today's inventory of incense and wine. He checks it against the offerings made earlier, noting with a reed pen that one jar remains unopened. He will offer it at sunset. Nothing is wasted. Nothing forgotten. Outside, the sound of a conch horn calls gently from beyond the temple gates. It is a signal from the outer priests, those who tend the sacred animals and greet villagers seeking blessings. The outer world has begun to stir more fully. Still, within these walls, time continues at a slower rhythm. The priest moves toward the courtyard of reflection, a sunlit open space lined with benches made from cool stone. Here, priests often come during their breaks to rest or meditate. Today, only one older scribe sits there, eyes closed, hands resting in his lap, breathing slow and deep. The priest does not disturb him. Silence is its own prayer. Instead, he walks along the perimeter pathway, beneath more columns, feeling the sun warm his face between patches of shade. He stops at one column marked with a symbol, a falcon in flight, the sign of Horus. This is a place where pilgrims often whisper prayers. He runs his hand along the stone, smoothing away dust, and says a short blessing for all who visit. May those who walk these halls feel the peace of the gods. Even if they speak no prayers. Even if they carry burdens unseen. The scent of fresh myrrh reaches him faintly. Another priest, perhaps, has just refreshed an offering nearby. The smell grounds him. Reminds him of the work that flows in layers all around him, seen and unseen. Just as the god does not walk as men walk, yet sees all. He passes through a low passage that leads to the outer purification court. This space, simple and quiet, is where minor priests and acolytes perform their ablutions before beginning work. A small fountain gurgles here, fed by underground channels from the Nile. The priest pauses to wash his hands once more, not from need, but from devotion. He cups the water, lets it fall across his wrists, and breathes deeply. Clean hands. Clean heart. Clear path. His duties now bring him to the storerooms, chambers carved into the temple walls where offerings and ritual items are kept. Baskets of grain, sealed jugs of beer, crates of scrolls, pots of oil. He checks each gently, making sure nothing has spoiled, nothing has been taken out of order. A rat could upset the balance of ritual. But all is well. The stone is cool here, and the order is strong. Finally, as the sun reaches its mid-morning height, the priest returns to the main corridor. Other priests pass by silently, nodding as they go about their work. He feels their presence like points of light moving around a wheel, each in motion, yet always circling the same center. He pauses beneath one final column, where a shaft of sunlight streams directly through an overhead slit, landing in a perfect circle on the floor. He steps into it. The shadows shift again as the sun climbs. Now, the warmth of midday begins to press against the stone walls, and a gentle stillness wraps around the temple. The noise of the outer city softens, as if even the world outside pauses to honor the hours of sacred fire. The priest enters the chamber of flame, tucked within the eastern wing of the temple. It is a low, quiet room with thick walls designed to trap warmth and hold silence. The entrance is narrow, but once inside, the space opens like a secret heart. There are no windows here. Only the flicker of sacred fire. The air smells of aged oil, cedar, and smoke, soft and warm, never harsh. The flames do not roar. They whisper. They move like golden dancers across their clay bowls and bronze basins, each fire placed with care, each lit for a reason. These are the eternal flames, kept alive day and night, never extinguished, their light a constant offering to the gods. The fire is not merely symbolic. It is alive. It is the breath of devotion. To let it go out would be a break in the flow of harmony, a tear in the cloth of ritual. The priest moves quietly across the floor, each footstep placed with reverence. A young acolyte stands nearby, tending to one of the smaller flames. He gently stirs the oil in its basin, ensuring it burns evenly, trimming the wick with a delicate reed. The priest nods to him, then turns toward the main brazier, a wide, copper vessel placed at the center of the room. It glows softly, its flames steady, reflecting patterns across the high, dark ceiling. He kneels before it and whispers the same words spoken by his ancestors. May your flame never falter. May your light never dim. May your warmth guide the gods to our door. From a small clay jar, he takes a pinch of sacred herbs, a mixture of frankincense, dried lotus petals, and ground sandalwood. He scatters them carefully into the fire. The flame crackles gently, and a pale stream of fragrant smoke begins to rise, curling upward like a prayer-given form. He watches it for a moment. Smoke drifting, then fading. A breath into the unseen world. The acolyte brings a small vessel of fresh oil, hand-pressed from desert seeds. The priest receives it silently and pours a thin line into the brazier, feeding the flame. The fire flickers once, then steadies, stronger now, clearer, fire eats, but never takes. It gives light, but asks nothing. Yet it must be fed. Like the Spirit. Like the truth. He repeats the lines in his mind, words taught to him in childhood, now part of his every gesture. At the far side of the room is a wall of niches, each holding a small flame dedicated to a different deity, Thoth, keeper of wisdom. Sekhmet, lady of healing and wrath. Hathor, mother of joy. Anubis, guardian of transitions. Each fire is small but pure, kept alive by oil and care. The priest visits each one, checking the wicks, offering a moment of stillness before moving to the next. When he reaches the flame of Osiris, god of rebirth and the afterlife, he bows deeper. This flame is green-tinted, infused with a rare mineral, and it burns with a pale, soft light unlike the others. It is said this flame connects to the hidden realm, where the soul travels beyond death. As this fire lives, so does memory. As it burns, so does the soul endure. He closes his eyes and lets the silence gather. The chamber of flame is more than a room, it is a boundary. A veil. A place where the divine feels near, where the flicker of light can guide even the lost. Many priests come here when the weight of their duties becomes heavy. They do not speak. They simply sit by the flame and breathe. Today, the priest does the same. He lowers himself to the floor, crosses his legs, and places his hands on his knees. The main fire dances before him, the heat brushing gently against his face. He focuses not on the flames, but on the space between the flickers, the rhythm, the rise and fall. Like breath. Time slows. The world narrows to warmth and light. Outside, a breeze brushes across the upper stones of the temple, rustling dry palm leaves. But here, all is still. Even the flicker of fire seems to move in slow motion. Then, from deep within his chest, the priest releases a soft hum. A note. A vibration. Not a chant, but a sound without shape. A feeling turned into breath. The fire seems to respond, dancing slightly higher. The acolyte joins him in the hum, then another priest at the doorway. Now the chamber of flame is filled with low, soft sound, like the stirring of distant waters or wind through desert reeds. The flame hears. The flame remembers. The flame gives. The words come to him silently, not spoken aloud, yet heard just the same. After some time, the hum fades, and quiet returns. The priest opens his eyes. The flame is steady, strong. It has accepted the offering. He rises, and the others bow in respect as he passes. Before leaving, he takes a small clay bowl from a side table. Inside, a traveling flame, kindled from the eternal fire, will be carried to another part of the temple for the sunset rituals. This flame must not be allowed to go out. It is passed hand to hand with care, shielded from the wind, watched constantly. The priest walks slowly back through the corridor, the bowl cupped in both hands. The fire dances within it, casting tiny shadows on his robes. He walks like a guardian of something fragile. Because he is. And as the light of Ra continues its journey across the sky, the fire within the temple never falters. It moves. It warms. It guides. Just like the sacred work of the priest. The sun now stands at its zenith, resting directly above the temple. Its golden light rains down without shadow, making the sandstone glow as if lit from within. Even the birds have quieted, finding still corners of shade beneath the great stone lintels. This is the hour when the gods themselves are said to rest in stillness. For the priests, too, this is the midday pause, a sacred interlude not merely for eating, but for grounding. A time to nourish the body, and with it, the mind and spirit. The priest walks calmly toward the refectory, a cool chamber set deep within the temple walls. It is not lavish. The benches are simple. The low tables are plain wood, smoothed by years of gentle use. The only decoration is a single carving of the god Thoth, scribe of the heavens, etched into the far wall. His ibis head tilted downward in thought. Others gather quietly, moving with the same serene pace. No one rushes. No one speaks unless needed. The silence of the sanctuary continues here, softened only by the sound of sandals on stone and the occasional clay vessel being placed gently on the table. A young servant, not a priest, enters with a woven basket of flat barley bread, a small jug of cool date wine, and bowls of lentils, beans, and soft goat cheese. The food is humble. There is no meat, no honey, nothing elaborate. Only what is needed. For the priests must remain pure, both in ritual and in consumption. The priest takes his place at the edge of the table, his hands folded neatly before him. He waits, not for a signal, but for stillness. Once the others are seated, and the quiet has fully returned, he lifts his right hand in blessing. May this food, grown by the flood, given by the land, offered by Ra, be received in balance. Let no excess touch the tongue. Let each bite honor the breath of Ma'at. With that, the meal begins. There is no chatter, no clatter. Bread is broken by hand, not cut. Beans are scooped with care. The wine is poured sparingly, just enough to moisten the mouth, to cool the throat. As he eats, the priest gazes inward. This meal is more than sustenance. It is a reflection. A returning. He remembers the tasks of the morning, the offerings given, the flames tended, the prayers whispered through incense smoke. Each act a thread. Each moment stitched into the fabric of this single day. The food is warm, earthy, and grounding. The lentils carry the memory of the Nile's rich soil. The bread, the rhythm of the millstone and oven. The cheese, a whisper from the goats that graze on the edge of the fields. All of it a gift from the world beyond these walls. Yet now, it serves the gods within. The sun now stands at its zenith, resting directly above the temple. Its golden light rains down without shadow, making the sandstone glow as if lit from within. Even the birds have quieted, finding still corners of shade beneath the great stone lintels. This is the hour when the gods themselves are said to rest in stillness. For the priests, too, this is the midday pause, a sacred interlude not merely for eating, but for grounding. A time to nourish the body, and with it, the mind and spirit. The priest walks calmly toward the refectory, a cool chamber set deep within the temple walls. It is not lavish. The benches are simple. The low tables are plain wood, smoothed by years of gentle use. The only decoration is a single carving of the god Thoth, scribe of the heavens, etched into the far wall. His ibis head tilted downward in thought. Others gather quietly, moving with the same serene pace. No one rushes. No one speaks unless needed. The silence of the sanctuary continues here, softened only by the sound of sandals on stone and the occasional clay vessel being placed gently on the table. A young servant, not a priest, enters with a woven basket of flat barley bread, a small jug of cool date wine, and bowls of lentils, beans, and soft goat cheese. The food is humble. There is no meat, no honey, nothing elaborate. Only what is needed. For the priests must remain pure, both in ritual and in consumption. The priest takes his place at the edge of the table, his hands folded neatly before him. He waits, not for a signal, but for stillness. Once the others are seated, and the quiet has fully returned, he lifts his right hand in blessing. May this food, grown by the flood, given by the land, offered by Ra, be received in balance. Let no excess touch the tongue. Let each bite honor the breath of Ma'at. With that, the meal begins. There is no chatter, no clatter. Bread is broken by hand, not cut. Beans are scooped with care. The wine is poured sparingly, just enough to moisten the mouth, to cool the throat. As he eats, the priest gazes inward. This meal is more than sustenance. It is a reflection. A returning. He remembers the tasks of the morning, the offerings given, the flames tended, the prayers whispered through incense smoke. Each act a thread. Each moment stitched into the fabric of this single day. The food is warm, earthy, and grounding. The lentils carry the memory of the Nile's rich soil. The bread, the rhythm of the millstone and oven. The cheese, a whisper from the goats that graze on the edge of the fields. All of it a gift from the world beyond these walls. Yet now, it serves the gods within. The midday stillness begins to shift once more, like wind stirring a veil. The sacred pause has passed. Now, the priest moves toward the most guarded space of the temple, the inner sanctum, the holiest of chambers, known to few, entered by fewer. He walks with measured pace along the hall of pillars, where great stone columns rise like tree trunks, each carved with sacred texts and symbols, the lotus, the eye of Ra, the scarab, the was scepter of power. Their meanings are layered, ancient, eternal. The air here is cooler. Not by wind, but by design, thick walls, high ceilings, narrow shafts of filtered light. This path prepares the spirit. It slows the breath. It stills the mind. And then, the final door. The sanctum gate is not grand. It is plain black granite, polished smooth by generations of reverent hands. The priest halts before it and bows deeply. He does not knock. He does not speak. He waits. A moment passes, and then another priest inside unlatches the gate with a soft click. No creak, no clang. Even the mechanics of this doorway are respectful. Inside, The inner sanctum is dim, lit only by a single oil lamp and shafts of golden sunlight that fall through high slits in the stone. Dust floats in the beams, moving slowly, silently, like time itself. In the center rests the shrine of the god, a wooden and gold-covered box adorned with protective symbols, closed tight with cords and seals of clay. The god it holds, whether Ammonius, Ra, or Ta, is not merely represented by statue here. Within this shrine, the presence of the divine is believed to dwell. Not as metaphor. Not as memory. But as living essence. Only the high priest, and rarely others, may open it. The priest kneels just inside the doorway, waiting for his role to begin. His duty is not to reveal, but to prepare. To assist. To maintain the rhythm of ritual so that the sacred encounter may unfold without flaw. A third priest, the high priest himself, stands before the shrine. Robes of white linen cascade to his ankles. His brow is marked with oil and a thin line of powdered lapis lazuli, signifying vision and clarity. In his hands is a small vessel of natron water, used to cleanse the statue and purify the space. He nods gently, and the assisting priest steps forward. First, they begin the opening prayer, whispered, not chanted. Awake, O hidden one. Dwell once more in form. This is your house, your breath, your flame. We are your hands. We walk your silence. Each word is carried carefully into the air. Not a single syllable rushed. The high priest carefully unknots the cords of the shrine, brushing each seal with water and words. Then, slowly, he opens the gilded doors. Inside rests the statue of the god, small, serene, carved in ebony, gold, or stone depending on the deity. Its face is worn smooth with centuries of prayer. The moment it is revealed, both priests bow deeply, their foreheads to the floor. Silence follows. It is not a statue. It is a presence. A mystery. A point where the divine chooses to see, to feel, to be. The high priest begins the sacred cleaning. He washes the figure gently with natron water, then wipes it dry with fine linen. The assisting priest hands him the perfumes, first myrrh, then cinnamon oil, and lastly, blue lotus resin. Each is used in a specific pattern, traced along the limbs, the face, the feet of the god. The statue is not just an object, it is tended like a living guest. It is dressed in miniature robes of the finest cloth, adorned with tiny jewelry, and anointed with oils that took weeks to prepare. Meanwhile, the assisting priest prepares the offerings, a tray of bread, vegetables, beer, and figs. Though the god does not consume in the human sense, the presence is honored with fullness, with beauty, with generosity. He sets the tray before the shrine, alongside a small burning censer, and fans the smoke upward with a palm frond. The air smells of earth and heaven combined. The high priest speaks again. You are clothed. You are anointed. You are nourished. You are seen. May your face be joyful in this house. Then both priests lower themselves again into a long, reverent bow. No part of the ritual is hurried. The presence must never be rushed. It is like coaxing light from darkness. Not forced, but gently welcomed. After some time, the shrine is closed once more. The cords are retied. The seals remade. The presence has been honored, and will now rest again behind the veil. But the effects linger. The sanctum feels warmer. More alive. As if something vast has passed quietly through. The priests do not speak as they exit. Speech would cheapen what cannot be explained. They walk in silence back through the hall of pillars, letting the sacred stillness cling to them like a second skin. Once outside, the air feels brighter, louder, more ordinary, but the priest carries within him the memory of that dark chamber, the quiet golden light, and the patient, watching presence. The gods are not far. They are not loud. But they are near. And they know when they have been served with grace. As he returns to his quarters to change robes once more, the priest feels lighter. The ritual is complete. The god has been honored. The link has been kept. The sun begins to dip slightly in the sky now, moving westward. As the sun slowly tilts westward and the heat softens its grip on the stone walls, the priest leaves the sanctum behind and walks toward a quieter corner of the temple complex, a place known not for fire or incense, but for ink and memory. Here lies the House of Life, or Pur-Ankh, a sacred chamber where scrolls sleep and language breathes. It is a library, a study, a scriptorium. But more than that, it is where the divine becomes written word. The priest pushes open a wooden door, worn smooth from centuries of hands like his. Inside, the room is cool and still. Thin windows cut into the high walls allow soft light to enter, falling in long stripes across clay jars, papyrus scrolls, and reed pens laid out with reverent order. Several other priests sit cross-legged at low desks, each bent quietly over a sheet of papyrus. Their movements are slow, rhythmic, intentional, like waves brushing the edge of the Nile. The sound of reed pens scratching across parchment is soft, steady, and soothing. This space is sacred, not just because of what is written, but because of why it is written. Here, words are not decoration. They are power. They preserve not only history and law, but the voices of the gods, the formulas of healing, the stories that hold the world in balance. The priest finds his place at a writing table carved with symbols of Thoth, the divine scribe, master of time and wisdom. He bows briefly before the etched ibis, then begins. In a clay bowl beside him, powdered black soot has been mixed with water and gum to create a smooth ink. The reed pen, sliced into a delicate wedge, is dipped carefully. He lets the excess drip back into the bowl, then lowers the pen to the papyrus. And then, with a calm hand, he begins to write. Words spoken by Osiris, Lord of the West. May the heart be light. May the tongue be true. May the balance be kept. Each line flows from him not like personal thought, but like channeling. As though the scroll guides the hand, and the divine whispers the words. He is not the author. He is the vessel. This passage is not new. It has been copied before, hundreds of times. But still, it must be written again, exactly, perfectly. No flaw can be allowed. Not in meaning, not in form. For a single miswritten glyph can change the prayer's direction, confuse the spirits, or open the wrong gate between this world and the next. The priest takes no shortcuts. He does not rush. Even a small symbol, a falcon, an ankh, an eye, can take many heartbeats to form. This is the rhythm of a temple scribe. Each stroke, a breath. Each glyph, a promise. To outsiders, these scrolls may seem like dry records, but to the priest, they are alive. They contain rituals for summoning rain, spells to ease the dead, maps of the underworld, tales of divine betrayal and reunion. They are the threads of reality, kept from unraveling by ink and will. Near the back of the chamber, another priest chants softly under his breath as he copies lines from the Book of the Coming Forth by Day, what others call the Book of the Dead. His voice is no louder than wind and reeds, but the words carry great weight. Let my soul rise like a bird. Let my name be spoken as long as the sun shines. Let my heart not betray me in the hall of judgment. The priest glances toward a shelf along the far wall. Scrolls rest there, labeled in faded red ink, Ritual of the New Moon, Incantations of the Lotus, Chronicle of Offerings Given, Ode to the Nile. Each scroll a vessel. Each a memory made solid. Sometimes, a scroll will be read aloud before a ritual. Other times, it will be buried with a noble to guide their soul through the afterlife. Some are copied purely to preserve what once was, acts of devotion for times yet to come. As he finishes his section, the priest takes a clean strip of linen and gently wipes the reed pen, then places it in its carved holder. He sets the fresh scroll on a clay shelf to dry and covers it with a thin cloth to protect it from dust. He then turns to a small clay tablet set into the wall nearby. Upon it are carved the names of those who came before, generations of scribes, unseen but not forgotten. He traces one name with his finger. It belonged to his teacher, now many years departed. May your ink never fade, he whispers. This is part of the sacred thread too, not just preserving the gods, but honoring those who serve them. He steps outside the scriptorium for a moment. The sun is lower now, dipping westward. The light is softer, more golden. He breathes in the scent of drying papyrus and blooming lotus from the garden below. A heron calls in the distance. Words may bind heaven and earth, but they come from silence. And so, the priest allows himself a few minutes of that silence before returning to his desk for the next scroll. There is still time before the evening offering. He dips his pen again. Afternoon stretches like a cat in the sun, slow and golden, casting long shadows across the limestone courtyards of the temple. The busiest duties have passed. The rituals have been performed. The scrolls copied and sealed. Offerings made, sanctums honored. Now, a rare moment arrives, a pause meant for story. Not everything sacred must be solemn. There is holiness, too, in laughter, in wonder, in the passing of wisdom mouth to ear, just as it was passed for generations untold. In a shaded alcove near the temple's garden wall, a small group of priests gathers, young and old alike. The oldest among them sits on a low bench, leaning against a cool slab of stone carved with stars and zigzag water lines. He is known not for incense or chants, but for his voice, the way it turns history into memory, memory into myth. He clears his throat, sips water from a clay cup, and the hush falls like a curtain. Even the birds seem to pause. With a slow breath, the elder begins. Not loudly, but with presence. In the time before time, when the earth was still wet clay, the gods quarreled in the sky. And from their quarrel came Egypt. The story is old, older than the temple, older than the city. But each time he tells it, it feels new again, like the Nile rising after a long drought. He speaks of Ra, the sun god, born from the first mound of earth that rose from the chaotic waters. How he spoke the first word, and by that word created the world. And from his tears, humans came. So we are not gods. But not strangers to them either. The priests listen with quiet reverence. Some know every word. Others are hearing it for the first time. But none interrupt. In these stories lie not just entertainment, but codes of order, truth hidden in image, and the gentle rhythms of identity. The elder's voice rises just slightly as he tells of Isis, the wise and sorrowful goddess, who searched the earth for the body of her husband Osiris, slain by his jealous brother Set. Her grief became magic, and her love became legend. She pieced him together, limb by limb, heart by heart. And from their union came Horus, falcon of the sky, avenger of light. The younger priests lean closer now, drawn not just by the tale, but by the feeling it creates, a sense of continuity. As though their lives are small threads in a great woven tapestry stretching from the stars to the soil, the elder pauses, letting the silence carry the weight of what's been said. Then, with a sly smile, he changes course. But not all stories are of gods, he says. Some are of men, foolish and wise. The priests chuckle, already knowing what's coming. He tells of the priest who forgot to bless the bread, and was chased by angry monkeys for 3 days. Or the acolyte who mispronounced a spell and accidentally summoned a breeze so strong it blew the temple doors open during high ceremony. Even the gods laugh, he says. And so should we, now and then. And then, more softly, he tells the story of the star-born child, a boy said to be born under a falling star, who wandered the desert following dreams. Each night, the stars whispered to him, songs of truth, sorrow, and purpose. He returned a man with eyes like obsidian, speaking of futures yet to come, of balance to be restored. He never became a king, the elder says. But kings listened to him. No one asks if the story is true. That's not the point. Truth lives in layers, and not all truth must be factual. Some truth is felt, in the hush between words, in the echo left behind. The garden sways gently around them, papyrus plants rustling, palm leaves nodding overhead. The elder leans back again, closing his eyes. Stories are like offerings, he murmurs. You do not ask for them. You give them. And in return, they grow inside those who listen. One of the younger priests speaks for the first time. Will the gods forget us when we are gone? He asks, his voice unsure. The elder does not open his eyes. He smiles faintly. Not if our stories are remembered. That is why the oral tradition matters. Not everything sacred fits on scrolls. Some truths cannot be inked. Some must be carried in breath, in voice, in the hush of a summer afternoon when the garden hums and the past leans close. As the shadows lengthen, the priests begin to drift away, some back to their duties, others to quiet meditation. But something lingers in the air, like incense not yet seen. A sense that they are part of something vast and old, and still unfolding. The elder remains seated, eyes half closed, lips moving faintly as he mouths a forgotten tale, perhaps one he hasn't told yet. Perhaps one he never will. Because some stories are only meant for the stars. The priest, now alone, walks slowly from the garden, his footsteps light, his heart full. Evening is coming. But for now, the day still holds a bit of magic. Even the gods laugh, he says. And so should we, now and then. And then, more softly, he tells the story of the star-born child, a boy said to be born under a falling star, who wandered the desert following dreams. Each night, the stars whispered to him, songs of truth, sorrow, and purpose. He returned a man with eyes like obsidian, speaking of futures yet to come, of balance to be restored. He never became a king, the elder says. But kings listen to him. No one asks if the story is true. That's not the point. Truth lives in layers, and not all truth must be factual. Some truth is felt, in the hush between words, in the echo left behind. The garden sways gently around them, papyrus plants rustling, palm leaves nodding overhead. The elder leans back again, closing his eyes. Stories are like offerings, he murmurs. You do not ask for them. You give them. And in return, they grow inside those who listen. One of the younger priests speaks for the first time. Will the gods forget us when we are gone? He asks, his voice unsure. The elder does not open his eyes. He smiles faintly. Not if our stories are remembered. That is why the oral tradition matters. Not everything sacred fits on scrolls. Some truths cannot be inked. Some must be carried in breath, in voice, in the hush of a summer afternoon when the garden hums and the past leans close. As the shadows lengthen, the priests begin to drift away, some back to their duties, others to quiet meditation. But something lingers in the air, like incense not yet seen. A sense that they are part of something vast and old, and still unfolding. The elder remains seated, eyes half closed, lips moving faintly as he mouths a forgotten tale, perhaps one he hasn't told yet. Perhaps one he never will. Because some stories are only meant for the stars. The priest, now alone, walks slowly from the garden, his footsteps light, his heart full. Evening is coming. But for now, the day still holds a bit of magic that he turns to the woman and touches her side with the back of his hand, cool and firm. A swelling, perhaps. A strain. He mixes crushed coriander seed with olive oil and applies it gently, then binds it with clean linen soaked in lotus extract. The scent is sweet, calming. He teaches her how to breathe with the pain, not against it. Slowly. Deeply. The body is not an enemy. It is a sacred vessel, and kindness helps it more than force. To the child, he offers a small carved amulet, a wedjat eye, the eye of Horus. Not just for protection, but for courage. The boy clutches it tightly, uncertain at first, then a little braver. "This I sees all trouble," the priest says gently, and tells it to go elsewhere. The child nods, not fully understanding, but comforted by the softness in the priest's voice. Sometimes healing begins in sound before it ever touches the skin. From a small hidden cabinet, the priest takes scrolls wrapped in clean linen. These are no ordinary texts, they contain diagnoses, remedies, charms, anatomical drawings, incantations for fevers and wounds, recipes for sleep and fertility. Passed down from generation to generation, refined, respected, remembered. He reads aloud a line meant for clearing infection. "I drive out the red demon. I drive out the heat. I bind the body in balance. I call upon Maya to restore." Then, carefully, he prepares a salve of honey, beer mash, and ground garlic, a recipe as old as the river itself. Applied to a cut, it draws out infection and seals the wound with sweetness and fire. Healing here is not done in haste. It is slow, like the turning of stars. Each case is a puzzle, and the solution lies not just in what the eyes see, but in what the heart intuits. The priest does not work alone. Other healers, older priests, herb gatherers, midwives, bone setters, move quietly through the space. They share knowledge, consult each other, and bow in respect when their paths cross. In a side room, incense burns in a clay bowl beside a bed of reeds. A woman labors in childbirth, her brow damp, her breath ragged. A midwife kneels at her side while a young priest chants blessings under his breath, invoking Taurid, the hippo-shaped goddess of protection in childbirth. Your waters are guided. Your path is blessed. Life flows like the Nile in flood. And when the baby cries, clear, strong, beautiful, it is not just a sound. It is a moment of sacred music. The priest stands in silence, hands clasped, acknowledging the mystery of it all. Life entering life. Outside the healing chamber, the sun has almost dipped behind the palm trees. The air is cooler now, fragrant with night-blooming jasmine. The priest washes his hands in scented water and returns his tools to their places. Not every ailment has been cured today. Not every pain erased. But peace has been brought to troubled minds, comfort to aching bodies, and hope to those who had lost it. This, too, is ritual. Not in gold or incense, but in clay and compassion, in reeds and reassurance. Before he leaves, the priest whispers a final blessing into the room. Let balance be restored. Let breath be easy. Let rest return. Then, as the stars begin to flicker in the deepening sky, he steps back into the soft corridors of the temple, hands still warm from healing, heart still steady from service. Tomorrow, the work will begin again. But for now, he walks quietly, carrying the light of healing into the coming dusk. Night falls slowly over the temple, like a velvet cloth drawn across the sky. The day's heat lifts at last, leaving only the cool hush of darkness, the distant trill of insects, and the low murmur of priests moving quietly through the outer courtyards. Now comes the hour for a different kind of work, one that watches, listens, waits. For while the gods speak in fire and ceremony by day, they whisper in signs and shadows at night. The priest ascends the narrow steps of the temple tower, each footstep a soft echo against the stone. His linen robe brushes the ancient walls. In his hand, he carries a polished tablet of black basalt and a thin reed stylus. Above, the sky opens, vast, jeweled, eternal. The stars glimmer like stories waiting to be read. He steps onto the tower's platform and sits cross-legged beneath the open sky. The breeze is cool here, sweet with the scent of river reeds and distant fig trees. Around him, other watchers settle into place. Astrologer priests, trained to read the heavens like scripture. This is not superstition. It is order. In Egypt, Ma'at, the goddess of truth, harmony, and balance, rules not just law and morality, but the movement of stars, the rise of the Nile, the patterns of dreams. To study the sky is to study her will. The priest lifts his gaze. He sees Sopdet, the bright star the Greeks would one day call Sirius, glinting just above the eastern horizon. Its rising means one thing: inundation is near. The Nile will soon swell with sacred water, flooding the fields, awakening the land. And so he notes it, quietly, reverently, on the black tablet. No loud announcements. Just stillness and certainty. Sopdet has risen. The river begins its song. From far below, faint voices carry upward, the sound of villagers gathering, preparing, offering prayers to Happy, God of the Nile, but here, above it all, the priest remains still. Watching. Recording. Interpreting. He draws out a palm leaf chart, delicate and precise. Across it, painted in red and black, are the star paths, the decans. 36 celestial markers that divide the night sky, guiding time and season like a divine calendar. He watches as Orion crosses into view, his shining belt unmistakable. In Egyptian lore, Orion is Sa, the spirit of Osiris in the sky, protector of the dead. Sa walks tonight, the priest murmurs. The gates of the underworld are open. Each appearance has meaning. Each disappearance, too. He watches for falling stars, rare but powerful omens. He tracks the phases of the moon, its crescent now cradled like a boat above the western horizon. When it grows full, certain rituals must be performed. When it disappears, the temple doors remain closed. Time is measured not in hours, but in heavenly signs. Beside him, another priest unrolls a scroll of dream records. These are not idle fantasies, they are sacred messages sent through sleep. Some dreams foretell harvests or misfortune. Others warn of imbalance. The priest remembers a dream from just 3 nights ago, a golden ibis flying backward through a storm. He consults a dream book passed down through generations. To dream of the ibis in reverse, it reads, is to face forgotten wisdom. A time of reckoning draws near. He considers this quietly. Omens are not meant to frighten. They are guides. Lamps on a dark road. He looks up again, and the sky seems deeper now, darker, but also more alive. He traces the path of the Milky Way, the great heavenly river. Some say it mirrors the Nile. Others say it is the path taken by the sun god Ra as he journeys through the underworld each night, battling the serpent of chaos, only to rise victorious at dawn. As above, so below, the priest whispers. The journey of the sun is also our own. The sky is not just a canvas, it is a mirror of the spirit. Symbols on earth reflect those in the heavens. And just as dreams are decoded in symbols, so too is the night sky. Stars are words, constellations are phrases, and the heavens are sentences written by the gods. He draws a new glyph on his tablet, an eye, a boat, and 3 stars above it. It is not just a record. It is a conversation. Even now, the temple walls below are marked with symbols, ankhs, scarabs, falcons, lotuses, all speaking a language that lives both in image and vibration. The same language echoes here in the sky. The priest does not seek to control it. He seeks only to listen well. And so, for a while, he simply sits. He lets the sky pass over him like a tide. He closes his eyes and breathes with the rhythm of the stars. His heart slows. His thoughts still. He becomes part of the balance he watches. And then, quietly, he rises. The wind lifts his robe slightly. He gathers his charts and scrolls, his basalt tablet, and begins the descent. Tomorrow, these observations will guide offerings, shape chants, direct when to bless the fields or when to wait. Even the timing of dreams and sleep will align with what the heavens have revealed tonight. As he steps back into the temple's inner corridor, oil lamps flicker gently. The stars remain overhead, now invisible behind stone, but still there, still watching. The priest bows slightly, first to the night, then to the silence, and vanishes into the calm. Behind him, the tower watches still. The canals of Bruges lie still beneath the moon, their waters glassy and dark, mirroring the steep gables of the old merchant houses. Not a single ripple breaks the surface, only the gentle flicker of lanterns dances along the banks, where roses sleep curled against cobblestone walls. Inside a narrow house with tall windows, a woman named Anneliese leans over her embroidery frame. The room is hushed, the fire low, the only sound the tick of a small iron clock and the thread slipping through fabric. Her candle flickers beside her hand, casting soft shadows across the linen. She is not working for coin tonight. The piece in her hands is for her daughter, a bridal cloth of white silk, carefully stitched with silver thread. Tiny fleurs de lis. A border of lace. A single dove tucked near the corner. Every loop, every knot, every pass of the needle carries a memory, a wish, a prayer stitched in silence. The Renaissance in Bruges whispers, not shouts. It hides in the intricacies of tapestries, in the delicate brushwork of Van Eyck, in the quiet wealth of wool and trade. It lives in the stillness of skill. In the patience of a practiced hand. Anneliese hums a lullaby, the same one she once sang over a crib by the window. Her daughter is grown now, asleep upstairs, dreaming of a new life soon to begin. Anneliese's fingers do not falter, they've known this rhythm for decades. Embroidery is not just art to her. It is memory passed from mother to daughter like a breath. Outside, the city dozes in velvet dark. Swans drift beneath stone bridges. The cathedral bells remain silent. Even the wind seems to walk on tiptoe tonight. On the mantel above the fire rests a small box. Inside it are scraps of her grandmother's stitching, fragments too delicate to use, too precious to forget. Anneliese keeps them close. Sometimes, when the house is quiet and the candle burns low, she opens the lid just to look. Needlework, she believes, holds a kind of time that clocks do not. A single row of stitching can hold hours of thought, dreams folded between loops of silk. She sets down her work for a moment and stretches her neck. The candle's flame sways with her breath, sending golden patterns across the walls. In this gentle light, even shadows look like they're resting. From a nearby chair, her old dog lifts his head, ears twitching. He watches her with quiet loyalty, then sighs and settles back down. Anneliese picks up her thread again, carefully guiding the silver across the silk. Each movement is a lullaby. Each stitch a vow. There is no rush. No one is waiting for it tonight. Only the night itself watches her, holding its breath while she works. And when the last thread is tied, when the cloth is folded and placed in its linen wrap, she leans back in her chair and closes her eyes. The candle still burns, slow and steady. And Bruges, with all its quiet beauty, holds her gently in its arms. As the last traces of sunlight dissolve into the western horizon, the great temple prepares for its nightly transformation. No longer a place of bustle or daytime ritual, it becomes something deeper, a house of stillness, of dreams, of waiting. The priest descends from the rooftop, his robes brushing softly against the stone. Behind him, the stars emerge, one by one, soft glints scattered across the dark velvet sky. Inside the temple, the air has cooled. The scent of myrrh still lingers, sweet and earthy, like the final note of a song now fading into silence. It is time. Time to seal the temple. Not in haste, and not out of fear, but in honor of the god's rest. For just as the sun god Ra must journey through the underworld in his bark each night, the temple too must journey inward, into quiet, into mystery. In the hall of pillars, acolytes move slowly with small oil lamps, casting soft golden halos as they make their rounds. They extinguish some flames and tend to others, keeping only those needed to light the path for the final duties. The priest begins at the outer gate, where the world of the living meets the domain of the divine. The gate is wide, carved from cedar, reinforced with bronze. Upon it, painted symbols glow faintly in the torchlight: Ankhs, eyes of Horus, sacred knots of Isis. He speaks softly as he lays his hand upon the wood. O keeper of the threshold! You have welcomed the day. Now let the night take its place. With a deep, sonorous creak, the gate is drawn closed. It does not slam. It closes like a breath exhaling. Then the priest turns a large bronze key in the lock, and the gate is sealed. No one will enter now. No voice will rise above a whisper. The temple has entered its sacred night. He walks slowly through the outer courtyard, now bathed in moonlight. The reflecting pool shimmers, disturbed only by the occasional flicker of a moth's wing. Statues stand silent watch. Thoth, Sekhmet, and Horus, their stone forms seeming to breathe beneath the stars. One by one, the priest checks the chambers along the outer walls, storerooms, scroll archives, kitchens, healing rooms. Each is gently inspected, then closed. Bolts drawn, lamps dimmed, silence observed. He pauses at the library of ritual texts. Inside, hundreds of papyrus scrolls sleep on wooden shelves, their ink protected by age, oil, and reverence. This chamber needs no lock, only a blessing. The priest raises his hand and whispers. Wisdom rests. Let none disturb its dreaming. He moves on. To the garden court, where sacred herbs grow, basil, lotus, mint, and papyrus. He touches a leaf of the blue lotus, still damp with evening dew. The air smells of life, of water and earth. No walls close this place. The sky itself is its roof. He lingers for a moment, listening to the cricket's quiet chorus. Then back into the halls of stone. Finally, he reaches the inner temple, the sanctuary of sanctuaries. Here lies the Holy of Holies, already visited twice today, once at dawn, once at sunset. Now, it will remain closed until Ra rises again. The veils have been drawn. The naos doors are shut. But even so, the god watches. Not through eyes of gold or lapis, but through presence, a stillness that hums, low and steady, throughout the walls, the floor, the very air. The priest bows low. He speaks no words. Some silences are holier than speech. He stands and moves to the side chamber, where the ritual garments are stored. Carefully, he removes his own linen robe, folding it neatly, placing it in a stone chest. He dons a plain cotton wrap for the night, symbolic of humility, of retreat. He is no longer a servant performing before the world. He is now a keeper of sacred sleep. One last task remains. He walks to the central passage, the spine of the temple, and takes from the wall a small ceremonial bell. Its sound is not loud. It is light, gentle, like a droplet falling into still water. He rings it once. Ting. Acolytes in distant corridors pause, hearing the signal. They know what it means. The temple is sealed. The day is done. Night has entered, and the gods now walk the world unseen. In small groups, the younger priests and acolytes begin to retire to their sleeping quarters, stone rooms along the east wall, shaded by vines and carved with simple symbols of rest, stars, lotus petals, dreaming eyes. The priest walks among them once more, offering a blessing at each threshold. May your dreams be wrapped in silence. May the gods whisper kindly. May you rise with peace. He does not knock, does not wait. He knows the rhythm of their rest. Soon, all will be still. The lamps are dimmed further now, some are snuffed entirely. Only a few remain, glowing faintly like embers in a hearth, keeping watch until morning. He steps into the priest's private cell, not lavish, not grand. A low stone bed, a folded cloth, a jar of cool water. A single oil lamp, flickering like a heartbeat. He sits cross-legged, gazing toward the ceiling, where stars are painted, tiny flecks of ochre and white, mirroring the sky above. He breathes in deeply. And then out. The temple is sealed. Not just with locks and doors, but with trust and love, with the knowledge that it has done its part. That the gods have been honored. That Ma'at has been upheld. Tomorrow, the doors will open again. But for now, it is time to rest. Time to let the world fall away. Time to sink into the sacred quiet of night. He lies down, head resting on his arm, listening to the silence, not empty, but full. Full of memories, of prayers, of all that has been done. And slowly, like the sun slipping beneath the horizon, the priest drifts into sleep. Night falls fully over the land of Kemet. The Nile, once gleaming under Ra's gaze, now lies wrapped in shadows, its waters reflecting only the silver glow of moonlight. Palm trees sway gently, their leaves whispering secrets to the stars. Villages grow quiet. Fires dim. The world sleeps. And within the temple walls, cool, ancient, sacred, a priest dreams. Not the shallow dreams of the restless, but deep dreams. Temple dreams. Divine dreams. Wrapped in linen cloth and stillness, he lies upon his stone bed, arms resting lightly across his chest. His breath is slow, steady, like the rhythm of the earth itself. Above him, the painted stars on the ceiling shimmer in the low flicker of an oil lamp. But his mind no longer sees them. It has slipped into the inner landscape, the dream world where gods walk and time bends. In this world, he stands once more before the gates of the temple, but they are grander now, taller than ever before, glowing with ethereal light. The air shimmers around them, thick with incense, with memory, with energy. The gates open without a sound. And he steps through. The dream temple stretches endlessly before him. Its pillars rise to the heavens. Its walls speak with symbols that shift and flow like water. Lotus flowers bloom in midair. Birds of gold perch silently on statues of gods, their eyes blinking slowly, as if watching. A voice calls to him. Not loud, but certain. Not heard, but felt. It is the voice of the divine. He follows. Through the pillared halls, where each step echoes as though the stone remembers. Through the sanctuary, now lit not by flame but by inner light, cool and blue, like the dawn behind closed eyes. And there, at the center, he sees it. A bark, a golden ship, resting atop the sacred waters of the underworld. And aboard it, the gods. Ra stands at the helm, his form ablaze, yet not burning. Beside him, Ma'at holds her feather aloft. Behind them, Thoth, the scribe, recording every motion, every breath. They turn to the priest. And beckon. He does not speak. He simply steps onto the bark. The river is dark and endless, yet not frightening. It is warm, cradling, ancient. As the ship glides forward, stars begin to rise from the surface, drifting upward into the sky, forming constellations anew. A star glows especially bright, Sopdet, the bringer of the flood, the signal of rebirth. He feels its presence, soft and mothering. As the dream deepens, the priest sees visions. He sees the first priests of long ago, in white robes, drawing water from the Nile with song. He sees sacred scribes pressing ink to papyrus, writing the names of gods that still live in the stones. He sees himself as a child, standing wide-eyed at the edge of the temple, dreaming of the day he might step inside. And now, in his dream, he walks beside the gods. They speak to him, not with words, but with symbols, with sensations. Ra gives him light. Thoth gives him memory. Ma'at gives him balance. Isis gives him love. And Anubis, guardian of the threshold, walks beside him in silence, his eyes deep pools of knowing. The bark travels deeper into the night. Past caverns filled with glowing hieroglyphs. Past rivers of time, where past and future blend. Past the coils of Apep, the serpent of chaos, who hisses in the dark. But the gods do not fear. And so, the priest does not fear. With the gods beside him, he becomes part of the journey, part of the ritual that never ends. Not just a witness, but a participant in the sacred cycle of light, dark, and rebirth. In this dream, he understands more than he ever could while awake. He understands that every chant, every incense offering, every drop of sacred water is not small. It is part of something eternal. Something beautiful. Something divine. The dream begins to fade. Not in fear or loss, but as a gentle transition. The gods step back, the bark slows, the river becomes mist. And the priest feels himself drifting. Back toward his sleeping form. Back toward his bed. Back toward the quiet of the temple. He breathes in the scent of the stone, the warmth of the linen, the memory of the dream. Though his eyes remain closed, he smiles faintly. He knows the gods were there. He knows the dream was not just a dream. It was a message. A blessing. A reminder. Outside, the temple sleeps still. The night deepens. The stars drift westward, marking time in slow, silent arcs. Somewhere, a night bird sings. A breeze passes over the temple's rooftop, stirring the tall reeds near the sacred pool. And inside the temple, in a chamber filled with quiet and shadow, the priest dreams on. He dreams of gods. He dreams of balance. He dreams of the eternal morning that waits just beyond the night. And in that dream, he rests fully. Completely. Peacefully. And so the night wanes. Darkness, once thick and whole, begins to thin at the eastern edge of the world. A single bird stirs in the tall reeds near the sacred pool. Its song is soft, a low trill that rises like the first thought upon waking. A breeze follows, brushing the temple's stone with cool breath, weaving between columns, rippling the linen banners that hang in the eastern hall. Inside his quiet cell, the priest stirs. Eyes still closed, his breath deepens. He does not wake abruptly. Instead, he rises through sleep, like a papyrus boat floating upward from the Nile's depths. His dreams still cling to him, gentle and golden, the touch of gods lingering just beneath his skin. He opens his eyes. And there, upon the ceiling, the painted stars remain. Unmoving, yet somehow different. As if they've watched him sleep, and now welcome him back. He sits up slowly, feeling the coolness of stone beneath him. The silence of the temple is not empty. It is full of potential, full of what is about to begin. For the day has come again. The cycle continues. It always does. He washes his hands from a clay basin near the door, the water cold and crisp. Each splash is a whisper to the past, a cleansing not just of body, but of mind. Then, from the chest, he lifts the white linen robe once more. He unfolds it with care, pressing it smooth with his palms. The fabric smells faintly of the temple itself, of myrrh, cedar, stone, and sun. He wraps it around his body. It is not just clothing. It is a return to service. To purpose. Outside, the light grows, no longer just a pale hue on the horizon, but a clear promise of Ra's arrival. The priest steps into the corridor, and the temple responds, small echoes underfoot, cool air shifting through stone arches, the distant footsteps of other waking acolytes. Together, they move like a single breath. No words. Just rhythm. Just knowing. The priest walks to the outer gate. The same gate he sealed the night before. He places his hand on the bronze bolt, still warm from the sun's memory. With a quiet click, it opens. He swings the gate outward, and morning rushes in. Golden light spills into the temple, washing over pillars, statues, and stone. It touches the pool, the altar, the sacred doors. The temple awakens, not suddenly, but with grace, like a flower opening petal by petal. The priest bows to the light. It is Ra. The sun god returns. He has completed his journey through the underworld, defeating chaos once more. And now, he rises. This is no ordinary sunrise. It is a ritual, a resurrection, a truth that repeats forever. The priest turns and walks the length of the temple. He visits each space in silence. The court of the outer gods, still hushed in shadow. The garden, kissed by dew, where the blue lotus opens anew. The library, where scrolls await hands to unroll them again. The sanctuary, where behind closed doors, the God within waits to be greeted. The cycle does not grow tired. Nor does the priest. For every day is different, even as it repeats. The light falls at new angles. The air smells subtly changed. Even his steps feel new, as if this were his first day. At the reflecting pool, he pauses. He sees his own face in the water, lined with time, softened with devotion. And behind his reflection, the temple itself glows. He understands, once again, that this is not simply a building. It is a living breath, a world unto itself. A mirror of the cosmos. To serve it is not a burden. It is a gift. From beyond the temple walls, the city begins to wake. Distant sounds of pots clinking, of carts rolling, of voices murmuring rise with the sun. But within these sacred walls, all remains slow. All remains still. Not stagnant. Just sacred. He returns to the sanctuary at last. The golden doors are shut, as they should be. He stands before them. Not as a man. But as a bridge. A bridge between human and divine. And with a whisper, barely more than a breath, he speaks the same invocation that has opened these doors for generations. O you who dwell within the hidden light. Your servant comes. Let this day begin in harmony. As it has. As it will. He places his hand upon the seal. And the doors part. Once more, the chamber breathes. The God watches. And the day begins. Just as it did yesterday. Just as it will tomorrow. In the temple of the sun, time does not move forward like a river. It circles, like a wheel. Each day is the same. Each day is new. And the priest will walk it again, as he always has. With silence. With devotion. With love. The end. And the beginning again.